Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to our Standing Watch program. Last Friday, the financial reality of our economy in the United States hit rock bottom, and people realized how fragile it is when the U.S. government had to come in and take over a bank situated in Pasadena to make sure that at least some of their depositors would get their money. But many other huge, big banks in the U.S. are in grave danger. And so we are talking about banks which may enter into bankruptcy unless the government intervenes. And some investors, because they find out that the government is willing to do so, were happy, and so the dollar rose a little bit in value, but this is only temporary because many other experts are very unhappy about what the government is trying to do. Let me read to you from an article which was published by Bloomberg on July 14. It says, the U.S. Treasury Department's plan to shore up Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac is an unmitigated disaster. And the largest U.S. mortgage lenders are basically insolvent, according to investor Jim Rogers. He went on to say that the U.S. economy is in a recession, possibly the worst since World War II. And also experts are telling us that about 300 banks are in danger of fighting for bankruptcy within the next few years. In addition, we found that the U.S. government has said, and I'm quoting now from an Associated Press article of July 13, that they are not going to throw, quote, a lifeline to struggling financial companies, except for these two I just mentioned. And according to other investors, this means that one consequence of Freddie and Fannie is that other firms are allowed to go under. The FDIC, which has insured these banks, is willing to pay about $8 billion to rescue the Pasadena-based bank. But what about all the other banks which are going downhill? Who is going to pay for that money which the FDIC needs to help investors? Now notice what the Telegraph, the British Telegraph, wrote on July 15, quoting Merrill Lynch. Now Merrill Lynch just admitted that they are $10 billion in debt. They are the third largest U.S. investment bank. And according to Merrill Lynch, and now I quote, it has warned that the United States could face a foreign financial crisis within months as a full consequence of the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac mortgage debacle spread through the world. The country depends on Asian, Russian, and Middle Eastern investors to fund much of its, and now notice this sum, $700 billion current account deficit. $700 billion in debt. Now, who in his right mind can doubt that one of these days the bubble will burst and those foreign investors will look elsewhere insofar as where they can invest their money? What we have seen, my friends, right now is just the tip of the iceberg. Things in the United States will get much worse. Why is that the case? And how is that going to affect the rest of the world? Well, it's already affecting Europe. See, this article by the Telegraph pointed out that Britain and other Anglo-Saxon deficit states could face a similar retreat by foreign investors. And here I do have an article by Der Spiegel Online, which pointed out on July 16, Der Spiegel Online, of course, a German magazine, that Spain, Ireland, and Denmark are either in a recession or on the brink. Italy is stagnating. France is weakening fast. And Germany is suddenly faltering, dashing most hopes that Europe could escape the upheaval in the United States. You see, my friends, Europe is blaming the United States for what is happening over there because all of this is interconnected. And they are saying because the United States has so irresponsibly dealt with its financial situation, now Europe is going to be affected. And Europe is going to do something very soon to prevent this from happening and going on any further. Why is this happening to the United States? Why is this happening to Europe? Well, the Bible makes it very clear. Most people scoff at the idea that we are quoting the Bible today to show you what is going to happen. But if you believe in God, if you believe in the Bible, why don't you take seriously the warnings for the end time? And so the Bible tells us that Europe will unite. And it will be a unification of 10 nations or group of nations, those proverbial core nations we are talking about. Europe is not going to unite, fully unite that is, with 27 plus member states, because many European politicians know and admit it, behind the scenes that some of the European countries right now are not in any way qualified to fulfill a leadership role. And so there will be just a few, about 10 nations or groups of nations, which will lead Europe, and they will look for alternatives. And the relationship between Europe and the United States will deteriorate. And as I mentioned this before, no matter who the next leader in the United States is going to be. Now, these are not good news for the United States. I'm not saying this in order to kind of support a European unification. The Bible warned that this is actually going to be very bad news for the United States and for the rest of the world, because they will ultimately lead the United States and other countries into what is called the Great Tribulation. Now, when I say these things over there in Europe, Europeans are very upset, and they say, well, how can you say that? Germany, for instance, is a peace-loving nation, and it is the United States which is starting wars. Well, that may be the case today, but according to the Bible, things will change drastically in a very few years from now. And we should be aware of it. Now, most Americans are not aware of things which are happening in Europe. They are not even aware of things which are happening in the United States. Up to 30% of American citizens still feel that the United States of America is still doing a pretty good job and that everything is going fine. I wonder what those 30% are listening to or watching, or are they even aware of what's going on? The United States of America, my friends, was supposed to be a leader in the world, showing the world how to live. And the Bible makes that very clear too, and I have done some programs on the origins of the United States. And it shows that the Bible does mention the United States of America many times. Of course, not with a name, the United States of America, but it is mentioned. And it was supposed to be a light to the world. But it has not shown the world how to live. In fact, it has shown the world how not to live. And there's a common saying in Europe that all bad things come from America. What a reputation. It should say all good things come from America, but that's not what's being said. The abominable, demonic feast of Halloween was virtually unknown in Europe for many, many years. When I grew up there, I'd never heard of it. But now it's big business. The United States of America has imported it into Europe. What an abomination. Such a demonic, blatantly satanic feast. And there are many other things I could mention, which the United States of America is responsible for. And the Europeans will ultimately get away from it. And they will see that they have to stand on their own 2 feet. And they will. But as I said, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good news. If there's going to be a war against Iran, either by Israel with or without the support of the United States, Europeans in all likelihood will not fight. And this also will damage the reputation and the relationships between those 2 power blocks. And what a terrible consequence that will be for the United States. We are talking about this country going down and downhill with lightning speed, if that is going to happen. My friends, the Bible talks about the Great Tribulation. It talks about a time which is so bad, which has never been, and which will never be. And man's accomplishments will not prevent it, and man's weaponry will not stop it. There is only one way how we can escape these things. If we don't collectively repent in this country, something which is very unlikely, because I can see even from your comments, which you are sometimes sending in to these programs, how little you understand, some of you, as to what is going on and what God requires of you. You put your trust in God, well, it's probably the money you put your trust in, and that's why God is going to take it away from you. And you have to start to look at God, and you have to look at Him for security and for protection. And then you may be spared from the terrible times to come. But Christ said, unless He intervenes, and unless He shortens those days, no human being would be saved alive. Nobody would survive. That's how bad it's going to be. That's how far human accomplishments will have brought us. My friends, you need to know what is going to happen. You need to know the warnings in the Bible, and you need to take them seriously. We have prepared a booklet which is titled The Great Tribulation and the Day of the Lord. The Great Tribulation and the Day of the Lord. You can get it for free. You can also go to our website, standingwatch.org. It's posted there. Or you can write us and ask for a free copy. You need to know the information in this very informative booklet, because it is going to tell you what is going to happen in the United States of America and in Europe and in the rest of the world in a few years from now. As I said, the financial crisis we are facing right now is just the tip of the iceberg. It's going to get much, much worse. And you need to know what is going to happen for your own individual benefit and also for the benefit of your family. Thank you very much for watching. This is Norbert Link for the Standing Watch program.